Summer KvK is finally over, and this was one of the most brutal KvKs of all of 2026 in the entirety of Rise of Kingdoms. I'm not even kidding. I was looking at the stats for all the KvKs in 2026, and this KvK that we just won ended up being, I think, the third highest kill point gain out of any KvK to start in 2026, which is actually insane considering there were 0 Imperium kingdoms in our KvK. So today I'm going to give you guys a recap on the KvK. How did all of the different kingdoms and camps do? Of course, I'll share with you guys how I did and how much KP I got, and we'll break it down per commander so that way you guys know which of my commanders pulled the most weight on the battlefield. And we'll take a look at resources spent, the Hall of Heroes, and all that stuff. As you guys can see at the top of the screenshot here, I ended KvK with 73 million power, which at the start of KvK I was about 100 million after pre-KvK training, so it was a brutal one. But before we jump in, of course, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, as you guys know, I am a partner creator with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more Rise of Kingdoms content, drop a like down below. That's like the secret way to help out your favorite YouTubers. I'm not even kidding. It helps a ton. And subscribe down below if you don't want to miss future Rise of Kingdoms content. All right, folks, let's jump right in here, and we're gonna start off with matchmaking and diplomacy. And this was the matchmaking result that we got, and this was the diplomacy outcome. So as you can see, we were in Northumbria. I am in Kingdom 1568. As you guys know, I've been here for years. We were fortunate to have some good campmates as well, and in fact, by the end of KvK, we actually went ahead and merged with 2500, which I did not expect, frankly, going into this KvK. I don't know if anybody did. I don't think that was planned going in, but we'll talk more about the kingdom merger later in the video. Of course, we allied with Mercia over here, and our enemies were East Anglia and Wessex. Now, the matchmaking here was actually pretty good. I know that matchmaking gets dunked on all the time, but in terms of fighting power, I think that the matchmaking here was solid, and diplomacy, from what I could tell and from what I have heard, what I have been told, as you guys know, I'm not in kingdom leadership, okay, but from what I'm told, diplomacy went super smooth as well, because everyone was kind of on board with, okay, let's just ally with what's going to get us the most fighting this KvK, and this ended up being the outcome. And so Diplo was done super fast. Everyone was kind of just on board, like, yep, let's just make this a brutal one, and we did, really. I mean, we honestly did. So there's not much else to say about matchmaking in Diplo. There was no spicy drama there was no long talks, difficult conversations, nothing like that. I mean, matchmaking was good, Diplo was good, and we got a really good KvK out of it, and luckily we were able to pull out the victory. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't think anybody sort of knew the outcome of this KvK going into Kingsland. And for those of you that were not watching this KvK or keeping up with my KvK, this Kingsland lasted for 5 days, and that was brutal because it opened on a Monday, bro. Oh my god. So we had Pass 7 open on a Friday, and then that following Monday was Kingsland, right? So that was the most brutal like week of Rise of Kingdoms that I've had in a long time, and really it was anybody's victory. I mean, everyone kind of showed up to Kingsland with the attitude of like, okay, we're either winning or we are zeroing ourselves into our enemy, and those end up being the craziest KvKs. And one of the reasons why this video is so late, right, this KvK ended about 2 weeks ago, there's multiple reasons. One, I've been busy. Two, there's been other things that came out like Pincer 2 and other things that I just wanted to cover first because those are news related, time sensitive, that type of thing. And also, after this Kingsland, this Pass 7 into Kingsland lasted a week, I honestly just didn't want to think about this KvK for at least a week, right? Like, just straight up, I couldn't look at the map. I didn't want to think about anything else. I just wanted to just turn my brain off and not think about KvK because this was insane. Now, the map progression was pretty straightforward. Obviously we shared a zone with our allies over here, so nothing interesting happened over there. When we first went into zone 5 up against East Anglia, which were, you know, basically we fought these guys pretty much the entirety of KvK, and this zone 5 was really interesting. We were pretty much stalemate at the center of the zone for a little bit. We were pushing them back, and then basically right around the time of, I think these are called castrums, right around the time castrum opened, the enemies just flooded online. They got the first capture of the castrum, and we were able to sort of defend and just hold out and then eventually push them out of the zone. So we did end up taking zone 5, although the stats for zone 5 were a little bit rough, right? I mean, frankly, like we took a beating in zone 5 even though we were able to capture zone 5 for ourselves. So that kind of like set the tone for how KvK was going to be, I would say. Even in zones where we won, we would have to fight tooth and nail and be willing to take bad trades. I mean, straight up, it is what it is. The enemy was not going to back down, right? And so we kind of knew that going into Pass 7 and into Kingsland. And as far as altars go, I don't know if we won any of the altars either, frankly. I think I was there for 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. I remember 1 or 2 of them were at like super weird hours, like 3-4 in the morning or something like that. So I obviously was not there for those. But yeah, I think we lost the 2 or 3 altars that I was a part of, at least as far as I can remember. So again, going into Pass 7 in Kingsland, like we kind of knew that this was going to be a brutal one, and it was really anybody's KvK to win, right? I know sometimes you have KvKs where you kind of have a feeling like, okay, yeah, we're definitely gonna win this, or okay, we're gonna get completely stomped going in here, and this was neither of those things. I mean, really, it was anybody's KvK to win going into Kingsland, and really Pass 7 kind of set the tone. I think we tried to just drain them as hard as possible with farms and everything at Pass 7. I mean, that's really the Pass 7 strategy, not much different than what you would expect from a Pass 7, right? And again, Kingsland lasted for 5 days, and every single time, I mean, I think the first day went well, and then we got pushed back pretty hard. I mean, we probably only had like, I don't know, a third of Kingsland, and then we eventually pushed them back, and then they were able to push us a little bit, then we pushed them a little bit, and it was kind of a stalemate up until the opening of the Zig. I don't remember exactly what they call this, the center of the King of all Britain KvK map, okay, but it's basically the Zig. Okay, the Zig opened and the enemies got first capture, right? I mean, this was, like I said, with zone 5, it kind of set the tone, right? I mean, the enemies got the first capture and it was not looking great, but we could tell that we were kind of winning the battle of attrition. We were kind of winning when it came to the grind, right? I mean, the people that would hold during our downtime, obviously they took a beating, right? Frankly, and then we would come back online and we would push as much as we could, and it looked like with each passing day, even though they had first capture here and they held, even with that, it looked like we were pushing them more than they were pushing us. It was slow, but it was steady, and that really was the name of the game. I mean, as you can see here, 1568, that's our main alliance, TL68. Our strategy was to just take this pass and push straight down and just try to cut both pass 8s, and our campmates would push through this pass, our allies would push through these passes, and then of course Wessex down here in yellow pushed up through this pass here, and I think they had this pass as well. So yeah, it was brutal, and nobody really gave up. I mean, even 2, 3, 4 days in, most of the camps were still fighting, which was kind of insane. I mean, again, it's a little bit of a blur, and like I said, after the 5 days, I just kind of turned my brain off. Like, I just did not want to think about KvK. I'm certainly missing a lot of details here, but like, all I can say is it was brutal, and if it weren't for these compression socks, I would probably have gone to the hospital. Also, the fact that I have a standing desk here, I can convert it into a standing and sitting desk. So all day I was literally sitting for a couple hours, standing for a couple of hours, sitting for a couple of hours, and it really was like 5 days straight plus Pass 7 of just like 8 to 12 hours of playing Rise of Kingdoms every single day. Like, that's the life of somebody who doesn't have anyone play for them. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Like, we're not gonna dive into that topic in this video. I've made too many videos about that topic, okay? But as somebody who doesn't have anybody else ever log into their account ever, not even once in the 8 years I've played this game, that's the reality of a 5-day Kingsland for somebody who wants to play as much as possible and who wants to win as much as possible, right? It's 8 to 12 hours a day for 5, 6, 7 days straight, and honestly, it was brutal, and it's not fun. I mean, like, after day 3 really is like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this hurts, right? Like, my body hurts from sitting all day, and also, like, I'm a content creator, so I had the luxury of doing that, right? Now, like, I had other things I probably should have been doing, but I was able to move my schedule around to just play KvK for 5 days straight, and that's it, right? I don't know, you could go back and look. I don't think I posted any videos during those 5 days, maybe one video just on like an off hour or something like that. My point here is that if I weren't a content creator, I would not have been able to play as much as I did. And so for regular people, like, what are they supposed to do, right? It's insane. But either way, after all was said and done, we did eventually push the enemy out of Kingsland, and we took the W, we took the star. This was an S plus KvK based on the stats. We'll go over that in just a second. But what that means is with an S plus KvK, you're able to share the star with somebody else, which was really nice. So the main players involved were able to grab a star here, which was really nice. And it was pretty much a civil end to KvK. I mean, as you can see by the map here, they kind of let us take max rewards from what we could get, and we let them have max rewards without interfering with our rewards. And that was pretty much it. I mean, there was no drama at the end of KvK. It kind of just, we fought till it was over, and then that was it. And everyone was like, okay, great, shake hands, move on. And that's pretty much it. And that's kind of how it should go, right? And I think that was the sort of tone that I got from my alliance leader, was that like, this is the ideal KvK scenario, right? You've got good matchmaking, you've got good diplomacy, everyone on the map is on the same page when it comes to fighting as much as possible, and then you fight as much as possible, and the winner wins and the loser loses, and then you just go on, and that's it, and you move on to the next one, right? Like, that's kind of the best case scenario for KvK. And so I was happy to be a part of this. This was one of the craziest KvKs of my Rise of Kingdoms career. This was my best performing KvK in my entire Rise of Kingdoms career, which we will go over in just a second. I think this is the second time that I've ever had a 5-day Kingsland, which is I think it's second, maybe third, I don't know, but it's insane. Okay, and I tell you all of this, and the reason that I clarified earlier that we don't have any Imperiums here is that I think a lot of people kind of mistakenly think that you need to be in an Imperium kingdom to be in a KvK like this, where you've got the most fighting possible, and that's just not the case, right? You do not need to be in Imperium to do this. 1568, we're an A-seed kingdom, and we've had multiple KvKs like this, okay? And so like, I just want to kind of put that to rest. There wasn't an Imperium here in this entire KvK at all, and it was a really, really great time. In fact, I actually landed in the Hall of Fame voting. I think I only got like 3 or 4 votes, which is totally fine. I did not deserve to win this, just to be very clear, but I don't think I've ever been in this Hall of Fame voting thing, because there's just so many insane players in my kingdom. So of course I had to vote for myself. I'm like, oh, your boy made it, right? I made it on the board. I didn't win it, but I made it on the board. At least I was at least in consideration according to the system, okay? But yeah, at the time of recording this, and I did my best to go through every KvK that at least started in 2026, right? So not ended in 26, but started in 2026 up until now. And I believe, I could have missed one, but I believe this was the 3rd highest kill point gain KvK of the entire year so far. Now, of course, we're at the beginning of August, so certainly over the next 4 months, there will be 1 or 2, maybe more KvKs that surpass this one. But again, we'll go over the data in just a second, but I believe this was the 3rd highest KP gain KvK in the entirety of the year so far. And again, not a single Imperium here, insane KvK, lots of fun. And so with all that being said, let's start to go over the data. First, I'll show you guys sort of the data from the game, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper. So this was my Hall of Heroes. As you can see, 3.8 million units dead. And really what bit me was losing a lot of my archers early on, because this was the first KvK where I ran 2-2-2. So this was my first KvK with a real 6 army lineup, right? I did it last KvK for a little bit, but my 6th army was kind of just boots on the ground. It was like a throwaway infantry march that was like not very good, okay? This was my first KvK where I had a real 6th march in the form of Alp Arslan. We'll cover his performance later in the video. And unfortunately, because of all the rally and garrisoning that happened, especially early on in the KvK and early on in the Kingsland, I did not have enough archers going into Kingsland to really field my 6th army as much as I wanted to, and that really bit me, right? And I just don't think I had enough archers to begin with, because leading up to this I was only running a 1 archer march, and so my troop distribution was such that I didn't really have enough archers to do what I wanted to do. Either way, these were my stats. This does not include my farm, by the way, and this was the first time that my farm actually did anything battle related ever, okay? I don't even know if my kingdom knows that I have a farm that is able to like join the Lost Kingdom map. So anyway, surprise, I was there, and I was like filling our pass and filling a couple other things. Nothing crazy, right? Really nothing crazy at all, but this is just my main account here. Here you could see resources spent. Woo, baby, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. Yo, that 10%, we need to bump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers, bro. We need, hey, yo, developers, if you're watching, we need this at least 25, bro. I mean, come on. Like, whoa, bro, 25 at least. Here you could see kingdom units that were in the Hall of Heroes, and this is the honor roll ranking. So your boy was kind of slacking here. I just was 100k was my goal. Okay, so we hit 100k. That was it. Fantastic. Shout out to Emma and Homie. That's crazy, bro. That's actually insane. Taking a look at the honor roll, of course, our coalition was #1 in honor. Our camp was #1 in honor. Autarch leaderboard. So here you can see I was number 115 for kill points. I was number 311 for death points and number 62 for heal points, bro. I was just rolling into the ball. I was just like, hey, yo, everyone get behind me. And then I went right to the hospital. All right, now let's jump into the kingdom and camp data here. So as you can see, total kill points gained for the entirety of the KvK was so close to 1 trillion. In fact, had I known that this was so close, I mean, I probably would have pushed for people to fight a little more. Like, bro, I know that sounds insane, right? Especially because we did fight literally as much as possible. But man, if we could have hit that 1 trillion, oh man, that would have been just the perfect number. Okay, almost 50 billion T5 casualties. What? That's wild. Taking a look at the kill points plus deads, this is for the entirety of KvK. Trada over here losing 268 million power. This KvK was actually insane. 32 million deads. I don't think this account went offline for 10 days straight, bro. Like, this was insane. Like, that is, I mean, talk about fighting till the end, man. And he still was like, I don't know, at the end of KvK, it was like, what, 150 million power? Oh no, 100 million power, 107 million power, and that was it. Totally insane. So as you guys can see, East Anglia had a lot of players in the top 10. They had 7 of the 10, right, which is wild. So that tells you just how like insane they were fighting all of KvK when we were going up against them in zone 5, and then also in pass 7 and Kingsland. Just absolutely brutal, right? So we're gonna go through. We got Ehab over here, we got Athby over here. Don't want to skip over Blue Hanzi, El Homie. I'm not gonna read over everyone's name because I will inevitably miss somebody, and then that looks bad on me. Okay, Jackie Mon's over here. Shout out to the Sove, of course. But yeah, this was an insane KvK. I mean, honestly, everybody in like the top 100 total monsters, right? Absolute monsters. If we take a look at a per camp breakdown here, you could see the highest KP gain was East Anglia. Second place was us, Northumbria, and then we've got Wessex and Mercia down here as well. You can see our KP loss was wild. Absolutely crazy. Fought tooth and nail for this KvK, no questions asked here. And then we've got the kingdom breakdown by KP gain. So shout out to 1228 coming in first place here for KP gain, 2010 in second place, and then us in 1568 in third place. And I'll scroll down here just to show off the entire ranking of all of the kingdoms for this KvK. So again, the entirety of KvK, I mean, 1 trillion kill points for a KvK with 0 Imperiums. Absolutely wild, right? Absolutely wild. I mean, again, there's a couple of KvKs this year that, you know, we've got the 1316 KvK that ended in, what was that? Ended in February, it looks like. There was this KvK. This was 2728 KvK. We've got this one ended in, when was that? In June, 1.4 trillion, right? So our KvK was up there with some of the most insane KvKs of the year, and I'm really happy to have been a part of that. Now, if we take a look at Northumbria specifically, where did I rank in Northumbria? Let's find ya boy. There he is, number 36 in Northumbria. So in the camp, I was number 36. If we do 1568, that's my kingdom, we will see I was number 19 in the kingdom. So 1.5 trillion KP gained. I had 3.8 million deads. I lost 27 million power. Horrendous ratios over here, absolutely brutal ratios. And this was my highest acclaim KvK ever, right? So my previous best was 1.1 billion kill points. This time I got 1.5 billion kill points. So I was super happy with how I performed. Some of my marches obviously traded horribly for basically the entirety of KvK, and that's what led to just this absolutely brutal brutal ratio, really. I mean, there's no way around it. It's just not good, right? It's not a great rate. I'm just running in there, and some of these marches were just, they should not have been used in that way. I did it anyway because I really wanted to win. And at a certain point, you kind of just turn your brain off and you hope for the best, right? This, you know why I know this was my best KvK? Obviously because of the stats here, but this was the first time, and I felt good about this. This was the first time that I was accused of piloting. Now, it was only one player. There was only one player who thought that, and maybe it's because they didn't know who I was, but that was such a big moment for me. It was such an honor, right? Because for my entire career, everyone calls me a farmer or deadweight or whatever the case is, right? And people could say what they want. I've been in the same kingdom forever. I always show up for the important fights. I always do what I have to do, but people always call me a farmer, right? And now the script has been flipped. Apparently now I'm piloting, right? Which was like, I don't know. I took that as a compliment. I was like, holy shit, dude, I've been playing so much. It's like back in the day when you'd be playing like Modern Warfare 2 and somebody would get on the mic and say, oh, you're hacking, right? And you're not hacking. You're just absolutely goated at the game. Like, that's kind of how I felt getting accused of that. But anyway, let's take a look at my individual commanders to see who got me the most kills in this entire KvK. Now, one of the things I want to point out here is this was King of all Britain, right? And for this KvK, I actually did not use the artifact. I really wanted to, but I thought about it for a long time and I just could not come to the conclusion of who it would be worth getting for, like spending the coins to actually get the artifact and rework all my like, I really thought about it, and I thought maybe CPO Prime would be worth it to flip to cavalry or something, but at the end of the day, I decided I'm just going to use my Ragnar Prime as a cavalry commander. Now, I do not recommend doing that, but I will explain why I did that in this video. And of course, for those that don't know, Ragnar Prime in the King of all Britain KvK gets his own artifact that you just get in the KvK, and that basically makes him a universal commander if he's secondary, right? So you could put this artifact on him and you can use him for any troop type throughout the entirety of KvK, and cavalry were the troop type that needed help the most this KvK, and so that's kind of where I slapped him. Now, again, not great synergy, but if you guys were wondering why it says he's cavalry, that's why. I only ever paired him with cavalry, and so when it comes to kill point total, I wanted him to count towards my cavalry total because he was in my cavalry armies. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and reveal this. Let's take a look at my infantry first. Okay, we'll see how many kill points we started with versus what we ended with, and let's see how many kill points we actually gained. So we got 9.8 million KP gained for Sun Tzu, we got 9.7 for Liu Che, we got 6.2 for Bai Chi, and 6.1 for William Wallace. So this entirety of KvK, at first I ran Sun Tzu Prime with Liu Che, I flipped it around a little bit and I did Sun Tzu with Wallace, and then I did Bai Chi Liu Che, and then I quickly realized that setup, that 2 infantry lineup basically sells your Sun Tzu Prime short, right? I mean, William Wallace is just not competitive in 2026. He was barely competitive when he came out, and so any army that has William Wallace is not going to do well. And mind you, I think Vercingetorix came out right at the end of the Kingsland, and so I actually didn't win the Mightiest Governor for him, and so I didn't get Versi for this KvK, right? So I was unable to test him out here, kind of doomed to use William Wallace, and that's pretty much it. Now, as you can see, I didn't use CPO or Alex at all, so you can literally just ignore them here. But yeah, the conclusion I came to was Sun Tzu with Liu Che and Bai Chi with William Wallace was the best 2 army lineup that I could run for infantry, and that was it. And I mean, the data kind of backs this up. I don't have Ivar, right? So if I had Ivar, that would be a different story. I would have tested him out for sure over William Wallace. I would have done Sun Tzu Ivar with Bai Chi Liu Che, but again, I just didn't have him, right? And I didn't want to spend 190 sculptures just to see if it would work. We've got new infantry coming at the end of this year anyway, most likely, and so like I just have better places to spend sculptures anyway, so I toughed it out with William Wallace, and it is what it is. Taking a look at the cavalry armies here, let's see what we got for calves, and I probably should just reveal it all at the same time. Okay, we've got Ragnar Prime 2.5 million KP gain, Achilles 6.2, Gangam Chan 5.8, King Arthur 3.8, and then we've got Hua with almost 1 million, and then I barely used my William, Philip, or Joan. Again, Philip is a cavalry commander for the purposes of the fact that I only used him with cavalry, right? So of course he's leadership actually, but that's how this works. And this is kind of why when you look at these stats, what I realized in zone 5 was that if you pair Arthur with Philip or you pair Arthur with William, the trades that you will get when you go up against a really strong enemy are so bad that it wasn't worth running. Straight up, like, it genuinely for me was not worth running the Philip or the William. Like, it just pops immediately, fills your hospital. I was better off simply benching those commanders, right? And so that's why the numbers are so low here. I think I only ran out the Joan. I think I did Joan Ragnar one time. I ran it out and I was like, okay, that's not gonna work. I was kind of just desperate to see if I could make Ragnar work, right? Or maybe it was Joan Arthur. I think I did Joan Arthur. Either way, Joan was an experimental thing, but I wanted to throw it in here. So yeah, the two army lineups that I ran for cavalry were Gangamchon primary with Achilles secondary. You could flip those around if you want. Just know that GG primary is more tanky. Achilles deals, I guess, technically a little bit more damage just because of the order of the skills, right? I personally prefer GG primary strictly because we were going up against such a strong enemy. I wanted as much tankiness as possible, and you know, that is what I got, really. I mean, Gangamchon lasts forever on the open field. It's really quite amazing. So cavalry really needed him, and I'm glad that they finally have at least one tanky commander. We'll have to see what the upcoming calves are. I know there's a little bit of we have a little bit of information about them already, but nothing official, and we don't know the actual stats for them. But anyway, that's kind of my cavalry lineup here. My second army was, for the most part, either Hua with Arthur, or I would run the Arthur with Ragnar Prime. And again, that is not a great march. I'm not going to tell you guys to do that. The only reason I did it was because Ragnar Prime is just damage, right? He's just damage. He's pretty tanky. He's got tons of defense, and the march speed, the fact that he lacks march speed, is kind of made up for the fact that he's in a cavalry army. So it's a little bit better here, but there's no synergy there in terms of damage, right? I mean, he's skill damage, and we've got Arthur primary is combo damage, right? And I ran it with combo armament, so there really was not a ton of synergy there. But like, that should tell you how bad the Philip and the William secondary were. It just was not doing it, right? Like there was just no way. If I wasn't going to run Ragnar, the alternative would be to just not run a second cavalry march, because it was just going to trade horribly no matter what, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have as many armies on the field as possible, and so that was kind of my last ditch effort. And then of course, as I ran out of cavalry later in the KvK, then I was basically just forced to run the single cav, in which case I continued to run the Gangamchon with Achilles for the tankiness, right? So that's kind of how that went. And then if we take a look at the archers plus the unknown kills, I don't know where these came from. It's just, I'm comparing my screenshots to what I see on the actual stats from the KvK, and there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. But either way, my Emperor Qin got 13.5 million kills. My YSG got 10.3. Zhuge Liang got 4, and then we've got Alp Arslan with 867,000, Herman Prime with 78, Shajar with 35. I just threw her in there just in case to see if maybe I could make something happen there. And then again, I don't know where these kill points came from, but either way, let's take a look at the actual total for everything here. My actual total number of kill points was 81,317,697. This was the total that I got from just literally subtracting my start and end kills, and I got this by summing this up, right? So that's excluding the I don't know where I got these kills from. With that being said, how much did we get from infantry, cavalry, and archers all together? So here we could see infantry, the total was 32 million, cavalry was 20 million, and archers were 29 million. So infantry and archers were very close. I think the difference here was strictly because of the fact that I didn't have enough archers to run two army lineup of archers all KvK. If that were the case, archers would have definitely taken the number one spot here. I was able to run two infantry almost till the very end, and yeah, my gear was just better for infantry as well, right? Gear was better, armaments were better. So I mean, really, I think archers are in the best place right now, and I think that would have showed if I could have run two archers all KvK. Unfortunately, I couldn't, so that's how that worked. Cavalry obviously far behind here, unfortunately, and that's not great because cavalry have been in that position for a couple of months now, if not a year or more. So hopefully the next cavalry are super strong, because I do think they need it. At the very least, they need one strong cavalry to pair with King Arthur, because King Arthur is just such a waste on the bench, and it sucks because you kind of need Gangamchon with Achilles, right? Like you need that tankiness there. So like if you run the Arthur Achilles, like it's just gonna die, right? So you kind of need to run that pair, but then Arthur just doesn't have anything great, right? I mean, you have Hector. Unfortunately, I don't have Hector, and I was considering maxing him for this KvK, but then they announced Vercingetorix so soon. I was like, okay, well, it's stupid to invest in Hector and then his replacement is going to come out like a couple weeks later. Why would I do that, right? It would be a waste of 700 sculptures hectors for me, so I didn't get the hector. Just the timing of the KvK was just bad when it came to investing in something like that. Same thing with the Attila, right? I could have invested in Attila here, but it's like, we know we're getting the next cavalry in a month, so like, why would I invest in Attila when he might go right on the bench for me, right? So that's kind of the position I found myself in for that second cav march, and I think a lot of players are in that position, right? If you didn't get the hector, you're in that exact same position. If you didn't get Attila, you're in that exact same position, and lots of people do not have those commanders, right? I mean, those are Mightiest Governor commanders, or in the case of Hector, he's a special KvK commander, but he's not somebody you can get easily from the wheel. And yeah, I'm just, cav are not in a great place here. Let's take a look at the total stats for my Sun Tzu and QSH armies. Okay, my Emperor Qin army got me about 30% of my entire kill points, which is actually insane, and my Sun Tzu army got me about a quarter of my entire kill points, which again, the two of these commanders combined, just these two armies, right, my Sun Tzu army and my Emperor Qin army, those two armies got me 53.5% of all of my kill points for the entirety of KvK. And that is my KvK prior, they got about 2.5% more than that, right? It was about 56% of my kills came from these two armies. This time it was 53, right? So yeah, we see a little bit better performance from other commanders, right? But really the meta has not changed since my previous KvK. The meta is still that two army lineup, right? It's Sun Tzu Prime with Liu Che, and it's Emperor Qin with YSG, and that's it. You just run those two, and that is a majority, literally objectively a majority of my kills here, and that's it, right? I mean, like, my Emperor Qin got more kills than both of my cavalry armies combined. Like, it's just insane. Like, he just pops off. He absolutely pops off. It's actually disgusting. Even my Sun Tzu march got about as many kills as my cavalry total, right? It's just wild how strong these armies are compared to the rest of the armies in the game. So yeah, if you guys are still on the fence about Sun Tzu, if you're still on the fence about Emperor Qin for some reason, don't be. They are the strongest commanders in the game. It's not even close. Get these commanders, or I should say, I mean, wait until the next cavalry comes out, right? We're only a couple of weeks away, but wait for that, but then invest in these commanders if you don't have them yet, because they are just disgustingly strong. And mind you, this KvK ended 2 weeks ago, so Pincer 2 wasn't even in the game. Okay, so this is like before Pincer 2, which is objectively a buff for infantry, which would just be stronger, right? So yeah, really good stuff here. All in all, I'm really happy with my performance. Again, 81 million kill points, 1.5 billion KP total. This is my highest acclaim ever, of course, obviously, right? But yeah, we went from like 7.8 trillion KP to 9.3, so I'm happy about that. Hopefully next KvK I can hit that 10 trillion KP mark. But now let's dig a little bit deeper into the specific pairs that I ran, right? I showed you the data. Now let me share with you guys sort of who I paired together. Like I said, I experimented a little bit throughout this KvK with the two army lineup for infantry, but ultimately I landed on Sun Tzu with Liu Che was the best choice for me, and then Bai Chi with William Wallace. I know Vercingetorix is in the game now. You could try Bai Chi with Vercingetorix if you want to do that instead. But again, we've got new infantry coming probably by the end of the year, like end of December, I'm thinking, if not early January. So we're a couple of months away from new infantry. We also don't know if there's going to be special KvK commanders. Maybe there's going to be a leadership in there that would work with infantry, right? So I think right now the safest investment for infantry is Sun Tzu. Other than that, I would probably hold off and just use what you have until we see what comes next. When it comes to archers, I was very adamant that I would be running Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang for the majority of KvK, and I did run that a little bit, but ultimately what it came down to was I just wanted DPS, right? And what I ended up doing in order to achieve that was I ran Emperor Qin with YSG for maximum damage output. That's really all that march does. It's just AoE damage every turn all the time, right? That's it. And then I ran my Alp Arslan with Zhuge Liang. And really, I don't recommend that march, frankly, but I just did it for the damage output. I did try to run the Alp with the Hermann, and it just wasn't working out, really. I think Alp kind of has to be primary there, and even then it wasn't getting me great reports. I know that the Alp Hermann is a support march, right? Like, you can't invest in Alp Arslan with the expectation that he's going to be a kill point machine. That is not, I mean, just look at his kit. That is not what he's built for. He's single target damage, right? So to expect him to be a DPS machine is just the wrong expectation. He's obviously a support march, and so a majority of his value comes from the support, comes from the debuffs, right? And so it's hard to like like look at just the KP and say he's trash, because that was never the goal with him. But at the end of the day, you know, when you're in the middle of a battle and you're trying to test the new commander and you don't really have time to really dig through all the reports to see how beneficial the supportive nature is, at the end of the day I just thought, okay, well, let's just do max damage and call it, right? And that's it. So the best way to do that for me was to run the Alp with the Zhuge Liang. The reason that I did this is because I knew that the Qin would be the high damage March, right? And YSG just deals more damage than Zhuge Liang, you know what I mean? So really that was my thought process there. The idea of doing the Zhuge Liang over the YSG is that he's got the debuff here, but great news, if he's on the Alp, he still has the debuff here, right? Like just getting him in the lineup is what's important. It's not that he necessarily needs to be paired with Emperor Qin. And also, again, with YSG, he has so much bonus skill damage that it's kind of wasted on Alp, in my opinion. Like you would just rather have it with Emperor Qin, right? Like if you're gonna give 62% skill damage, like why would you give it to Alp, right? Like why would it's almost a waste, you know what I mean? So that's kind of why I ran that 2-army lineup. Like as you saw from the data, like I didn't run the Alp that much because I ran out of archers. It just is what it is. Also keep in mind that for this KvK, I didn't have these gloves. I actually had purple gloves, and the only reason for that is because I actually ran out of blueprints for legendary gloves. I didn't even realize that was going to be a bottleneck for me. But yeah, I didn't have best in slot gloves. And also, I mean, these are my accessories. Like these accessories are trash, right? Like they're actual garbage. I mean, obviously the march speed was nice, but yeah, so keep that in mind. Obviously I did not have the best gear on this army, and the stats reflect that. But at the end of the day, the Alp Arslan is not a must-have commander, right? And really, I think that archers are in a place where, you know, if you run the Alp, it's fine. I really do hope they get a special KvK story commander that is a little bit, you know, we need march speed and we need AoE on them. And if we do, then maybe we don't even use the Alp, right? Like maybe it's just that commander paired with Zhuge Liang, right? Like it could be that simple, you know what I mean? So Alp is definitely not a commander that I would recommend for most people. If you're running 2 archers right now, you need him, but at the end of the day, like how much longer is he going to last in the meta? Not very long. So yeah, if you want to support March, grab Alp, but otherwise I was not super impressed with him. And this is why I always tell you guys, when new commanders come out, wait for the content creators to invest, wait for the whales to invest, wait for them to make that sacrifice so you, the viewer, can know if it's actually worth it, right? And Alp's kit looks amazing, but he just didn't put the numbers on the board. Objectively, it is what it is, right? So, and again, there's lots of reasons for that: gear, armaments, everything. Like it's not perfect. This advantage to advanced, I actually got this from winning the KvK, so I didn't even have this during KvK, right? So like this was my worst March from a progression perspective, obviously, but even still, this was performing so bad that I almost thought it was a Cav March. That's just a little bit of shade, but yeah, anyway, can't really recommend the Alp. Hopefully he gets a pair that comes out soon that makes it really worth it. Otherwise, you know, if we just get a raw AoE archer next time, then it's probably going to be that commander with Zhuge Liang, and that'll be it, unless you need the march speed, in which case Alp is your boy, because 25% is actually really good. And then when it comes to cavalry, I've already explained those commander pairs, but that's pretty much it, guys. When it comes to like the future of my account, what am I looking to do? If we take a look at my sculptures, how many do we have? 2,127. So I've got a lot of sculptures. Obviously we know cav are coming up, so I'm not going to invest in anybody until the new calves come out. We'll see what those look like. If we do get AoE open field calves, it's a slam dunk invest for me. That's pretty much it. I mean, I know what's floating around the community. I know what was in the custom arc matches, right? But unfortunately we don't have too many fine details there in terms of like, do they get stats all the time? Are they only in alliance territory, outside of territory? Like there's a lot that we don't know still about the upcoming calves, right? But as far as my account goes, I am looking forward to the upcoming cav commanders. I'm also looking forward to the upcoming Delta 2 release, because after seeing a lot of the testing for Pincer 2, obviously Pincer 2 is better than Pincer 1, but you know, the difference there for me as a field fighter, I'm holding on to a lot of my conversion stones until we see Delta 2. I obviously grabbed Dominate here, right? I had Toppler, I grabbed Dominate, I kept Toppler on my Bai Chi. I'm just gonna hold off, see what Delta 2 is all about. I grabbed Charge for my Sun Tzu. It's just insane. I mean, it's just insane. It says 2-second cooldown, which it does, but I mean, because this is so short, both your primary and your secondary can trigger this, right? So like the cooldown starts the turn you use Charge, is what I'm saying. saying. So Sun Tzu, if Sun Tzu's active skill was off, charge gets triggered. It's a 50-50. Let's say it gets triggered, then that's the first turn of the cooldown. Then there's the turn in between active skills. That's the second of cooldown. So then by the time your Liu Che or your Bai Chi casts their active skill, charge is able to be triggered again, right? And it can trigger multiple times per second. Like, it's just insane, right? Charge is just insane. So I grabbed that on the account, and I think I'm in a really good spot for infantry here. Again, this is my second infantry armaments, right? So obviously worse. Vigor was something I was able to grab, which was nice, but it's 1% higher than rattling is, right? So it's not worth converting this over. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. My archers look fantastic on my first archer march. I mean, this is just basically best in slot. This is basically done. I'm never going to change this until we see wedge 3. My second archer army looks okay. I don't think this is something that needs my immediate attention. Obviously the defense is a bit low and we don't need the march speed, although I don't hate having it on archers, right? If any troop type was going to get, if I was going to have march speed for any troop type, it would be archers. But really, like, there's work that can be done here. Obviously I would love another special inscription, but at the end of the day, I think at this point in August and throughout the rest of the next 2-3 months, all of my focus is going to be on cavalry, because we're getting new cav commanders. They need it really badly. And this is my second cav formation, right? My second Delta march. And so this needs a lot of work. Really, it just does. And I really want to get prepared for Delta 2, because I think it's going to be the biggest ROI for my account at this point. And because of all that, I've actually held on to my 10 inscription shards. Now, for those of you that don't know, I reached the 8 shard mark right around the time that Wedge 2 came out, right? And that was back in, like, what, April. So it's been 4 months and I've just held on to them, waited for Pincer 2. And now that we see Bulwark, which is very good, by the way, it's very good, but the choice that I have is, okay, I put Bulwark on my Sun Tzu and then I move my Airtight over to my Bai Chi, and then I still have a crummy, 2 cav lineup, you know what I mean? And so I think the best play for me, for my account, is to keep saving, right? To keep hoarding, keep holding off, and then once Delta 2 comes out, then we make the call. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And KvK just ended for me, so I've got the luxury of time. I can wait. I don't need one of these inscriptions right now, right? I'm just not going to move the needle for a few months anyway. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm expecting Delta at the end of November at the latest, right? It could be early November. End of November is when I'm predicting it'll come. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm saving those shards. It just takes too long to get them. For somebody like me who doesn't spend a ton on inscriptions and armaments, really, I do spend on other things in the game, but it's mainly permanent things that have less RNG, like equipment and crystal tech and things like that, right? And sculptures. So yeah, that's kind of where my account is at. That's my future goals right now. I'm pretty much all set with archers. The only thing I need for archers right now, a little bit of work on this second set obviously would be nice, but really I need a great second march in terms of, whether it's benching Alp or benching Jue Liang or whatever. Looking forward to that, and I've got the sculptures to do that, so that's already taken care of. I don't have to think about that. It's all about calves, right? Calves are what I need to focus on right now. This is, for those of you that are wondering, this is my best cav set at the moment, and this is my armaments, right? So definitely area of opportunity here for my calves. And so that's kind of where we're at. Those are my future plans, and it's a good time to be focusing and saving for calves anyway, because they're coming down the pipeline and Delta 2 is up next, right? So I feel like my account progression is perfectly in sync with what is coming out soon for the game, so I'm happy about that. This is how many conversion stones and conversion fragments I have, so about 25 conversion stones, and I'm happy about that for Delta 2. So all in all, that's it. That's my KvK recap. Those are the commanders that performed best for me. It was an insane KvK, one of the heaviest fighting KvKs that I've ever been in, and that's saying something, right? A 5-day Kingsland was brutal. I'm praying, developers, please, you said that you would not have those big pass openings on weekdays. I know that our KvK opened before that, so at this point, like, for all future KvKs, please, I'm begging you, Kingsland's gotta open on a Friday. Like, it's gotta open on a weekend. It has to. I can't do it again. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, drop a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. Comment down below your thoughts on my best performing armies, my investment strategy. If you were watching the KvK, if you were in the KvK, comment down below your thoughts on how everything went. And while you're down there, double check to see if you're subscribed. A lot of times YouTube will unsubscribe you, so double check to make sure you're subscribed. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.